Okay, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Hello.
Hi, I can hear you. Good morning.
Hello. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Okay. Thank you for joining us. We'll be commencing in 3 minutes at 10:15. Listen to noise.
Hello. Hello. Sir. KBIT Hub.
Okay, good morning once again. Thank you for joining us in the maiden edition of the tech series titled Improving the Development of Economic Development of Kebbi State with a Focus on Education. I would like to quickly give an opening remark before proceeding to hand over to the moderator for the panelist session. I'm indeed delighted to welcome all of you to the maiden edition of the Kebbi Innovation Tech Hub series titled Leveraging Technology for Economic Growth in Kebbi State, Focusing on Education.
The presence of our panelists who out of their schedule took time to join us today. We have the Honorable Commissioner
Information and Communication Technology, Honorable Abdullahi Mohammed Magoro. You are welcome, sir. We have the Honorable Commissioner, Kebbi State Basic and Secondary Education, Honorable Magawat Aliru. You are welcome, sir. Perhaps if let's enable the video so that virtual participants can see Honorables joining us. First, your video. Enable the video so that our virtual participants can see. Okay, so we have the Honorable Commissioner, Ministry of ICT, Honorable Abdullahi Magoro, if you can wait to our online audience. Okay, that's him there. And Honorable Magdawat Aliru, if you could as well wait. I'm telling you, you can adjust the screen as well. Okay, we also have joining us virtually is Rudra Narayan Sahu, Education Manager, United Nations Children Fund, UNICEF. You're welcome, sir. The host, if you can mute everyone, we're having some background noise.
Okay, sorry for the technical difficulty we had. I don't know if you can hear us now.
Can hear
Can
you,
confirm
sir.
in the chat. I think the host has disabled people unmuting themselves. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, well, I apologize once again for the technical difficulty. Okay, so I was at Mr. Rudra Narayan Sahu, the Education Manager, United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF. If you can just enable your video and wave to the audience. Oh, yeah, there he is. Okay, thank you very much for joining us, sir. Okay, we also have Alhaji Abubakar K. Isa, the Director ICT, Federal Ministry of Education. You are welcome, sir. If you can enable your video and wave at the audience. Okay, thank you very much for joining us, sir. And we have the Deputy Managing Director of Vertebra Limited, Mr. Mike Aigbe. You are welcome, sir. If you can as well wave to audience. Yes, thank you very much. And we also have the State Manager, Bank of Industry, Mr. Suleiman Umar. If you can as well wave to our online audience. Okay. So as a way of introduction, education is fundamental to the development of any society. And it is as such why our first program in the tech series will be focusing on how we can leverage on technology to improve technology. Okay, sorry, I was muted. Like I said, education is fundamental to the development of any society. It is as such that our first program in the tech series will be focusing on how to leverage technology to improve education and overall propel the development of Kebbi State. We have seen countries such as India change the course of their development through information technology. According to the World Bank, the ICT sector in India accounts for 9.5% of their GDP and is the largest private sector employer in providing 3.5 million direct jobs and over 10 million indirect jobs. Kebbi Innovation and Tech Hub wishes to position itself as the go-to destination for developing this kind of disruptive technologies and contributing positively to the GDP in Nigeria. The Kebbi Innovation and Tech Hub is a partnership between the Kebbi State Government through the Ministry of Information and Communication Technology and the Bank of Industry. The hub was established to bring tech education and tech support to Kebbi State. Now, the hub, among other things, is going to majorly develop the capacity of the Kebbi State citizens in development and utilization of information technology. The hub offers trainings in web development and design, graphic designs, robotics, UI UX, which is a user interface and user expressions design, data science, and machine learning. Additionally, we also offer incubation services, co-working space, private office space, meeting and conferencing facility, and other startup support services, including funding to scale. It is our belief that through this kind of knowledge sharing sessions, we can get stakeholders in education to share with us the successes and challenges they face, thereby springing up an ecosystem of innovators in education to help solve these problems. We also have a lot of youth joining us here today, as well as students. As the most vibrant part of our society, the knowledge that will be shared here today, like I said, will include challenges. And in these challenges lies also opportunities. Now, the hub is very much available for any individual or group of individuals willing to tap into these opportunities as a way of entrepreneurship or problem solving, as well as bringing new ideas that will help improve education in Kebbi State. We'll also be partnering with the Kebbi State Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education to build robust programs to catch our young leaders young. We're very glad that we have quite a handful of them joining us here today. We'll be introducing them to STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics in a fun way at their various schools. That will also help develop their interest and capacity in developing innovative solutions to the most dire challenges facing our society today. So I once again thank you for joining us today. And I would now hand you over to the State Manager, Bank of Industry, for him to give an opening remark before we proceed to the panel session. Thank you very much.
Okay, yeah. Hello, can you hear me? Okay, good morning, everyone. The Honorable Commissioner, ICT, the Honorable Commissioner, Minister of Education, PAMSEX President, Directors, all the invited guests, you're welcome to this event. Just like the hub manager mentioned, the whole idea behind establishing a hub in Kebbi is for partnership and to allow the community and probably source for new people and young people into the ecosystem. The Bank of Industry understands that Kebbi is agro-based and there's an opportunity therein to use technology to achieve whatever it is you need for economic growth, be it in agriculture, be it in other sectors. It's very welcoming and good that we're beginning this with Ministry of Education, where we're looking at possible opportunity where the students, both in secondary and tertiary institution, can key into this noble idea. You can arrange for how they can visit the hub, how the hub can take its team to various schools to ensure that they put this display in the students to have interest in technology. So that as much as possible, let's try to leverage on this whole partnership idea of establishing a hub in Kebbi State. The hub has been around for close to a year now, and really have not really put it to good use. Want this to be like an opening, this should open all doors. Now that we have over 500 students now that I noticed. So please, we should, since the commissioner is here, we beg that you take this as yours, because it's already the commissioner's ICT baby, it's his baby. So we just want some collaboration between your ministry and the Ministry of ICT to ensure that we put this facility into good use. Thank you. Let's have a very good time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Suleiman, for that wonderful presentation. And we'll go straight ahead to the panel session. If our moderator is here, sorry, I forgot to introduce you. If you could as well enable your video so that our participants can see you. I'm talking of Barrister Mrs. A.K. Agoram, an educator and founder the Early Years Corner. Barrister Mrs. Okay, I think I can see her now. Okay, yeah, she's waving to the audience. Sorry, that's Barrister Mrs. A.K. Agoram, who will serve as our moderator for today's session. Like I said, she is the founder and an educator of the Early Years Corner. So I'll hand over the session to you, ma'am. So just would allow participants to mute themselves, but we encourage everyone, especially those joining us virtually. Those with us, please, we can load the noise because we're having a lot of background noise. And for those online, please, you mute yourself, and when the moderator permits you, you can then unmute yourself. So Barrister Mrs. A.K. Agoram, it's over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that warm introduction. Good morning, everyone that is on site and online. Welcome to the maiden edition of Tech for Development series. And I'm so glad that the focus on education is actually question. As an educator, I'm passionate about what I do, and I like to meet other educators as well and stakeholders to educators. So we are going to be starting, and we're just going to be having a 1-hour session. So I would advise everyone to take a pen and a paper, because there will be a lot to learn here. The people here are not young or junior people in the education sector. So welcome once again to the knowledge sharing session of leveraging ICT for economic growth in Kebbi State. And I hope this will actually affect the whole of Nigeria. So I would like to introduce my panelists today. The first person on my list is Honorable Commissioner Abdullahi Magoro, Commissioner for ICT in Kebbi State. So please, a round of applause for him. Okay, let us move on. I would like to also welcome to the panel Honorable Commissioner Magawata Aliero, Commissioner for Basic and Secondary Education, Kebbi State. Please, a round of applause for him. And I would also like to welcome Mr. Abubakar Issa, Director of ICT, Federal Ministry of Education. That's our Oga from Abuja, our Oga at the top. So please, a round of applause for him. I would also like to welcome the Education Manager for UNICEF, Rudra Saho. I hope I got that right. It's not a Nigerian name, so permit me if I made a mistake. And I would also like to welcome to the panel, Mr. Mark Aigbe, Deputy Managing Director for Vertebra. You're all welcome to this session, and I'm happy to be the moderator for this panel. Thank you so much. So I would like us to start. The topic is leveraging ICT for economic growth in Kebbi State. So I'll be directing my first question at Honorable Commissioner Abdullahi Magoro, Commissioner for ICT in Kebbi State. We know education is very key and is the bedrock of every society. I want to ask you, sir, you can unmute yourself and answer, please. Based on what we're talking about today, could you give us an overview of how technology can generally be used to drive economic growth, especially in the education sector? Okay.
Okay. Good morning, Eki. I would like to use this opportunity to thank all our panelists here and guests. Now, the question you asked, Eki, is a vast one, but I'd like to keep it as short as possible. Technology basically can be used to drive economic growth in different sectors, not just education. But first of all, we need to understand, irrespective of the sectors we find ourselves in, where we are and where we want to be. This is where technology comes in to serve as a driver for that change by enhancing processes and also bringing in systems which would drive the desired change or growth which we expect. Now, to make this easier for our guests here, I would use examples of government, for example, from our point in government, with the introduction of e-governance, that's using the websites, emails, and other platforms. It has made life easier for the citizens and also for the government by being able to increase efficiency, reduce wastage. Now, with this, it has also helped with the generation of internally generated revenue, which is a key factor for economic growth, as you know. And I would use an example of Lagos State from 1999 to 2021. 1999, when Lagos State was generating internally generated revenue of 500 million naira monthly, they are now hitting about 40 billion naira monthly. Now, why would you say this happens? It's obvious because technology was introduced in the processes and the right systems were put in place. And this also had to do with training of people and making sure that the right skills were in place for this to also happen. Now, another sector I'd also like to use, of course, is people, just general. Last year we were hit by the pandemic. Now, without technology in place, I think the whole world, of course, came almost to a standstill, but it would have been a total standstill if not having platforms like Zoom, which we're using today. So businesses could continue, people could continue engaging with their normal activities via Zoom, and not having to go out due to the pandemic. Now, this, of course, had made life easier for people to continue learning online through online platforms, also for them to also continue working remotely from any location, anywhere in the world. All these things drive economic growth. Now, moving on, we also can look at businesses. Businesses have been able to, with technology, businesses were able to continue working during the COVID period. And this has also
which we are experiencing today. So a lot of people now rely more on platforms online where they can now drive their businesses. But of course, a key factor to all this is education. If people do not have the right skills advantage of these opportunities that technology presents, a lot of people you see walking around today, they have smartphones, but are they utilizing these smartphones? The opportunities that are there, their business people, a lot you see around, they are not utilizing it. So because they don't have the skills, and this is where technology and education come to meet and play an important role. SMEs in the country, as you know, are responsible about 4% of employment in the country, 48% of the GDP that the country produces. And this is a we have to look at to see how education can drive or capacity building can drive this sector to make sure that it continues to contribute to the GDP of the country and economic growth. Another area also which technology has come to prove and has done fantastically well in the past couple of years are the startups. They have come in and they have proven that they are a key source of foreign direct investment for the economy. You look at the startups such as Flutterwave, Kuda, OPay, etc. Just this year, they've already generated over $900 million in foreign direct investment for the country. And that amounts to over 400 and something billion naira. Just 35 of them have been able to achieve this so far this year. So technology is definitely has a role to play in economic growth and also being backed up by education. Even starting from as you can see with the hub is really packed today, thanks to the Honorable Commissioner of Education that was able to notify all the schools around and students. And literally, we're not expecting this large number of students to be here. This shows you the interest we have, and which is a good development. And we know that if we are partnering with the Ministry of Education, we can achieve what we want or we're set out to do in Kebbi State. Another example I would also like to give you is due to all these areas I mentioned to you, you can see that it also indirectly helps other tech companies to generate revenue, which contributes to the economic growth of the country. MTN now for the first 9 months of this year has declared sales of over 1.2 trillion naira, which mainly has to do with data. Now, it shows that the acceptance of technology by Nigerians and how they are utilizing it in various ways. And if you look at the ICT's contributions to the GDP last as of 2020 was 17.5% of GDP. So, and this is projected to continue growing. When we look at, because we have the country has a broadband plan 2025, which has targeted about 90% of the population to have access to internet at prices. And of course, with the SMEs also that are performing well and doing very well, this is an opportunity for them to use technology to also take advantage of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, which would now give them a competitive advantage, and they have to be prepared. Other countries too will be also looking at how they can get their own SMEs to go out on the continent of Africa and take advantage of this opportunity. So to round it up, technology backed by education, which is key, because without the education, people would not know how to take advantage of this technology and would not be able to drive the economic growth, which we are witnessing at the moment. Now, I'll round it up by also saying that technology applied for economic growth has to be responsible technology. We have to be aware that there are threats also out there that when technology is not used responsibly, we have cybercrime and we have fake news that is being spread on different platforms. this can actually have a negative effect on economic growth because businesses or people find it difficult to carry out their normal activities with the rest of the world once your country is tagged to be a center for cybercrime, or where you have fake news going around and it causes a lot of tension. So overall, the technology is the way forward. It has done well. It will continue to do well for the economic growth of the country or the state, and it is here to stay. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Please, a round of applause for him. Thank you for that explicit overview that you've just given us. We appreciate that. It was very straightforward and self-explanatory. You don't need to tell anyone about it. You don't need to explain further. So it is very, very glaring that everybody became a digital native. We were all digital migrants before COVID came, before the pandemic. And we all became digital natives by force when COVID came. And if not for technology, we would have all been frustrated. So if you're just joining us online or if you're joining us on site, we are talking about leveraging technology to drive economic growth, and we are focusing on education. And this is brought to you by the ICT, the Commissioner for ICT, Kebbi State, Vertebra, and the Bank of Industry. Thank you so much for putting up such, a laudable project, for kicking it off. So we're going to move on now to the next question. But before then, I would like to tell you that it's not just the overview we're going to be talking about. We're going to be discussing challenges, solutions, and plans for improvement for the education sector using ICT. All right, I would like to direct this question to Honorable Commissioner Magawata Aliero, the Commissioner for Basic and Secondary Education for Kebbi State. Please, sir, kindly give us an overview of your ministry and the current challenges facing the education sector in Kebbi State. And make it brief, please, because we just have less than an hour. Thank you so much, sir. You can unmute yourself and speak.
Good morning, all of you.
Good morning.
My name is Muhammad Aliero, the Commissioner of Basic and Secondary Education. We are of challenging education in Kebbi State. Well, education generally, as you know, is a fiber upon which the wheels of development rotates. Development and growth cannot be there if there is no education. So, but education not only in Kebbi State, globally is facing a lot of challenges that have made a cog in wheel in growth and development. Well, let me give you a pragmatic analysis of the major problem. The major problem is paucity of funds. There are some problems, maybe like bad governance, like the ignorance of the people, but the major one is the paucity of funds. Last year, the Kebbi State has voted 141,270,117 naira budget. Last year, 141,644,270,117 naira. Last year, Kebbi State. I was on a panel in Abuja one time last 2 months. I gave this analysis. I said, okay, let all sectors in Kebbi State, like the agriculture, the rural development, security, everybody should hands up. Everybody, no kobo for them. Let's take this example. There'll be no kobo for agriculture, no kobo for security, no kobo for water, electricity. Let us leave all this 141 billion 644 27117 to only secondary school students of Kebbi State. Today in Kebbi State, we have 300,000 secondary school students. We have 300,000 secondary school students in Kebbi State today. Now let us divide this money. The whole budget of Kebbi State, the 141 billion, 270, I mean, no, 644, 271, 17, was 300. When you divide it by the students, you will find that every student will get how many? 472. 472,000. Yeah. 472,000. Now divided by 550. Then recommend dollar. No, all right. The benchmark of UNESCO is $700 for every student. $700. In the United States, students are budgeted $6,000 per year. $6,000 per year. In places like Finland, the Belarus, Bahamas, and other countries like that, students are allocated $12,000 per year. Now, this 472, I said, let us feed our students like the Nigerian prisoner. Nigerian prisoner is feeding 1,005 a day. 1,005. Okay, let us feed our students with them. That is 280 days, 280 working days. Forget about the 86 days of the 356, 360 days in the year. It means that we are going to spend 420,000 for feeding our students. How much? 420 out of 472. What it means? 52,000. Okay, now take 50,000 out of the take 30. Able student to bankroll his teaching equipment. 30,000 and leave only 27,000. Okay, now take 10,000 for rehabilitation of the classrooms. 10,000 times 300, 3 billion. Oh, okay, now take 10,000 for this, 2,000 for the you know how much? 2,000 only for yeah. Okay, take 2,000 for students, excursion, students, and that. Take 2,000 for. You see, by the end of the day, there will be enough. We will not have no kobo, and no roads, no security, no nothing. The whole money, the whole budget is now given to secondary school, not even primary school, no tertiary school, no roads, nothing.
Sorry, sir. I need to cut in here. So sorry. People are complaining about the sound quality. They're not hearing well, and you're actually talking about something very important. All I get is that there is scarcity of funds for education, and that is really causing, a lot of injuries for you to move on and run the education sector fluently. So I would just like you to hold on a bit so that we can hear what you have to say properly, please. Because the truth is that, from research and statistics, it shows that about 53 to 56% of children are out of school in the north. And Kebbi is one of the northern states. So we really need to tackle this. And we hope and pray that this laudable project is going to help us provide solution to it. And thank God somebody is here from UNICEF, and he would be speaking to us next. So please, sir, I would come back to you. But let me call on Mr. Rudra Saho from UNICEF. He's the education manager for UNICEF. In case we are wondering what UNICEF is, I know most of us know, but some people wouldn't know. That's the United Nations International Children's Education Fund. So please, Mr. Saho, if you're still there, I would like you to tell us how education can be used as a tool to drive economic growth in Nigeria and reduce poverty. Education is one of the SDGs, that's the Sustainable Development Goals, that's number 4. And poverty is actually number 1 on the list, no poverty. And the SDG 4 is quality education. We know UNICEF has really helped a lot. They have contributed to the children's sector, not just education, but we still need you and we want to hear from you. Mr. Rudra Saho, please tell us how we can use education as a tool to drive economic growth in Nigeria and probably sustainably end poverty. Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much, ma'am. I hope you can hear me well. Good morning, everyone, and please accept my protocol, particularly to all the audience there. So before taking any time in introduction, just I'm coming to the point, and Nigeria has a great demographic dividend, particularly why I'm saying this is 40% of our 200 million strong population is under age 15. And at the same time, the growth of technology and the increasingly broad range of actors, both public and private, providing online learning means we can deliver learning opportunity anywhere at any time. But when we see the statistics, which really disturbing us is around out of school, as you rightly mentioned, we have in Kebbi States nearly 500 school-going children are not going to school, 500,000 children. Wow. And also at the same time, the schooling is not learning, though nearly 95% of our children going at the early age of schooling, nearly 70% of them are not acquiring basic foundational literacy and numeracy skills. And they're growing young. That means millions of our children and young people of Nigeria are not developing the skills they need to break out of poverty. This is really, really disturbing. And if I connect globally, the skills is the new currency of 21st century, and nobody can deny that. And what our youth also mentioning that, no doubt we have a very high number of out-of-school children, and also those who are schools are not learning, and those are also completing secondary or higher secondary, even the tertiary education. What they are mentioning is nearly 30%, over 30% youths are mentioning that they are not prepared for the job, but the job market is looking at. That means you can just quantify the amount of waste work in terms of the educational engagement. We need to look it at thoroughly. And also what is happening globally, particularly the job market to break the poverty is now, particularly the manual and the routine skill, the jobs around manual and routine skills are shrinking. And where the jobs are opening up, mostly the analytical as well as the interpretational skills. How we can align our curriculum, our teaching resources, particularly the teacher, so that they can engage learners to acquire competency and skills. Because knowledge, children and learner can seek Google. Google can give you anything at any time. Then why the children should know only? Even the employer at the present context, they are not worried about what you know, but they're really are interested in what you can do with what you know. That is important. That's where the skills, competencies are coming in. So what UNICEF is doing in this regard is we are committed to empower the teaching force so that they can really engage children in learning and particularly skills, acquisition of skills and competency. And also,
let me come in there. Is that one of the initiatives that the UNICEF is using to improve education sector in Nigeria?
Yes. We're aligning our focus to empower the teaching force, particularly the teachers, and the target for this year is 59,000 teachers to improve the skills, to engage children and support children in acquiring skills and competency. This is one such area. And also we are coming in to support Federal Ministry of Education in launching a digital learning platform with curriculum mapped material, with high quality audio, video, and print ready materials, so that children can engage at their own pace, one time. It's both offline and online enabled, so that the children can come and acquire their skills.
All right, so I would also like to come in here. We love the initiative. I love UNICEF. I know about, a lot of things they have done in Nigeria. Although there are still some challenges, there's always room to improve. So right now, the initiatives you're putting in place, are they sustainable? Because technology is expensive, and we all know that there's inflation going on in the country. So how sustainable are these initiatives that we are talking about?
Yes, and two of the strategy I am going to mention to make it sustainable. Number one is integration. That means what we are doing, it needs to be integrated within the government's intention, interest, and what are the intervention they are doing. I rightly mentioned just the previous speaker, Honorable Commissioner, on the basic and secondary education about the financing. The financing is the key. So how we can integrate what we are doing with the government system, and we need to allocate a special allocation to focus on the skills, competency, and align with the modern day innovations. That's important. And the second aspect is the partnership, where we're also successful in bringing in partnership. Right now, we are having a partnership with Airtel, which coming up with a 50 million USD equivalent data support to children for African continent, and Nigeria is going to have a big share on that. That means we're in discussion with Airtel, MTN, and other service provider to provide low cost or maybe zero value education data for children, so that they can access to the site and without cost. This is one. And also we are bringing in other partners to support the quality and coverage of signals, because most of the rural locations are deprived of high quality data connectivity. So we are bringing in partners to support on that aspect as well. And also we're mapping the schools where they're lacking, particularly encouraging them to have digital infrastructure to support digital learning. So these are the key initiatives we're taking off, and also aligning with government and private partner to support children of Nigeria and children of Kebbi, so that they are going to acquire the requisite skills for their future. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Rudra Soho. He is the education manager for UNICEF, and we are happy to have you here. You've actually just talked about the challenges, the strategies, and some of the solutions you have in place, and that include partnership, no cost access to data, financing projects for the education sector in Nigeria. So these are also applied to future plans you have, or are these just the immediate plans that you have?
Yes, so we were committed to support Kebbi states, because Kebbi is one of our focus states to achieve the result for children, and we are committed to reduce out-of-school children. We are committed to improve learning outcome, and also how the girls' children continue their schoolings and ready for their future. So these are a commitment for near futures, and also we are continue to work on this area. Over and out. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I would like you to tell us more, but I know you have to run, and you've been able to just run through everything that we need to hear from you. We're glad to have you on this panel. So we hope to see you next time. Thank you so much.
My honor and pleasure to be here.
All right then. Bye. Thank you. Please, a round of applause for him. Yes, he has told us what plans they have for Nigeria. So I think the audio is better now. If you can hear us properly, just kindly type yes in the chat box. For those online, please kindly type yes in the chat box. I get 2 yeses and we go on. So I think we'll be going back to, thank you, Kende. Thank you, Mr. Mike Aigbe. All right, so I think we'll be going back to Honorable Commissioner Magawata Aliero. He was telling us about, sorry, please, we'll be going back to Honorable Abdullahi Magoro. He was telling us about the challenges in the education sector in Kebbi State. So I think all right, thank you so much, Mr. Ibrahim. The audio is better now. Please, can we have you back on, sir? Honorable Commissioner Abdullahi Magoro.
Hello. Actually, it was
Yes,
the
sir.
Commissioner of Education that was telling us the challenges. Magawata Aliero. He was the one talking before you.
Oh, right.
Yes, what I was.
Okay, before I went off, sorry about that.
Hello? Yes.
I can hear you now.
Thank you. I was talking on challenges of education. I said it's mainly for of funds, apart from the other small challenges. And I was giving a pragmatic example of Kebbi State, where I said last year's budget or this year's budget, 141 billion, the whole 644 million, 270,115 naira. I said if all sectors should hands up, all sectors, agriculture, food development, security, everything, and give all this money to the 300,000 secondary school students, it won't be enough. It's not up to even $1,000. While in the United States, secondary students are allocated $6,000 in a month. And in places like Belarus, Finland, and Bahamas, students are allocated $12,000 in a year. So I said there is a problem because technology, growth, development, and education, they run on a vicious cycle. No education, because it is a pivot, it's a platform upon which schools of development rotate. No education, no technology, no funds, no education. There is a vicious cycle. We have seen out of box on how to fund education first. I have a suggestion. That is say everybody, parents, stakeholders, everybody must have education. For example, I said last year, I wrote to all of the members of National Assembly so that every one of them should dedicate 50% of his constituency allowance to education. I say parents, the government should declare state of emergency for education. If that is done, there will be sound education, and later, and then good technology, then growth, then funds. That's how the business is. For example, in Kebbi, we have only 17 secondary schools out of 327 that are connected to the internet. Out now, only 17 secondary schools out of 327. We have only two schools out of 327 secondary schools that are running e-library. You see, so things are going to be uncountable, and I have this suggestion. I hope it will work. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much. Please, a round of applause for him. All right, we appreciate you telling us the true situation about education in Kebbi State. Let us quickly move on to Mr. Abubakar K. is a Director of ICT for Federal Ministry of Education. I know you are at the federal level and you will have more information about what is going on, how we can, the education sector is suffering due to lack of ICT tools in the sector. So briefly tell us about what the challenges are you're facing in your sector from your own, angle.
Thank you very much, moderator, and thank you so much, the panelists. At the national level, our role is basically that of policy making and policy decision. Because the way Nigeria is structured, education is basically on the concurrent list. Government, states are supposed to come up with their own, implement those policies that we set nationally. However, we also know the challenges states are having in terms of funding for education and in terms of concentrating, because sometimes priorities differ. We believe priorities, what we are getting is a function of the priority states attached to education, and we think they can do a little more. However, at the national level, we have thought of our major challenge is how do we have quality education? Just like my friend Arudra said, what are the learning outcomes? How do we ensure that those that are out of school get a form of education? And what do we need to do? So what federal government did was to at least ensure that all the nooks and crannies of Nigeria have access to quality books, quality education. And for us to be able to do that, we leverage on technology. Even before COVID, we started a project of an education cloud. What that meant was having a website in a layman's term that contains all educational materials for the country for free, from primary school to university. And well, when COVID came, I don't know if it's a positive sign or a negative sign, we leveraged on it and we fast-tracked what we needed to do. And in collaboration with UNICEF, we came up with two solutions. One solution is called Learning Passport. That is a website that have all the books that is required for dedicated basically for basic education. That's primary school and secondary school. And the federal government itself developed another website called Inspired, and we have about 15,000 videos of lessons from primary school to senior secondary school. These lessons are structured lesson by lesson, class by class, subject by subject, in such a way that even if our schools close today, kids can go online and have access to this lesson just the way they would have been in classes. However, we know there are issues of access, affordability of access, and affordability of devices. That is where we are now. And we're working closely with UNICEF and other development partners to say, how do we ensure that this people can have access to these materials, most especially those in the hard-to-reach environment. We are working on that, and hopefully we should. Part of the challenges, part of the solution we have is what Rudra have said earlier on. We are working with Airtel about providing free access. We are discussing with telecoms to provide us with data plan for education, such that it can be affordable. Where a major challenge is access. How do people have devices to be able to have access to this? And now, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Communication and Digital Economy, Ministry of Trade, we're all putting our heads together to come up with how do we make cheap device affordable and available for a Nigerian child. That's where we are now.
Okay,
sir. We'll get further.
Yeah, I have to come in here. Just wait a bit. We're going to talk about the solutions and the strategies as the session goes on. So thank you so much for telling us about the challenges. Access is one of the challenges. And I agree that the Ministry of Education is doing very well. Even radio programs, there are radio programs for education, where children can listen to, especially during the COVID. I am an on-air presenter with ASO Radio in Abuja on education programs. So I can say from a place of authority that the government have put things in place. But like you have just said, accessibility is a very big challenge. So we'll be talking about the solutions, and I will call upon you again to tell us the plans and strategies that you have in place. Thank you so much. So let us give him a round of applause as we move on. So I'm coming to Mr. Mike Aigbe. He's the Deputy Managing Director of Batibra. Thank you for putting this in place. This is good. I personally, as an educator, feel that there are not enough programs that covers the challenges we have in the education sector. And talking about solutions, maybe we'll be looking at advocacy. You know, as we go on, we'll share a lot of knowledge about that. But right now, I want to call on you, Mr. Mike Aigbe, to talk about how easy or difficult it has been to develop technology, you know, to deploy technology in the education sector in Nigeria. It can be a challenge. Or let us hear from the tech consultant in the house. Welcome, sir.
Thank you so much, Eki. Thank you, other panelists. I've listened attentively to all the issues that we've raised. I will talk from a practical point of view. Vertebra Limited is a software solution provider, not just in Nigeria, but in Africa. So we have experience, hands-on experience. In deploying technology to the education sector in Nigeria, what have been the issue? How easy has it been for us? And how difficult has it been for us? In looking at that question, I will look at the various stakeholders because we have deployed solutions to various stakeholders: the government, the policymakers, the regulators, that is the examining bodies, the schools, both the public schools and the private schools, the parents as well. What has been the story? The story has been based on issue of acceptability, because technology itself, a lot of people resist it. They believe that when you deploy technology, what certainly will happen is that they are no longer going to be relevant. So that has been an issue. Then the second issue I will look at is the issue of affordability. We've heard a lot of people talk about scarcity of funds or paucity of funds. Affordability has also become a major issue. That's been an issue as well that we have discovered while deploying technology across these various stakeholders. Before the pandemic, there is a major solution that we deployed for an examining body in Nigeria. And that solution has to do with how easy is it for people to check their result after examination had been conducted. What happened there was that it was easily acceptable because the time was ripe for it. People were in different places. It takes a whole lot of time after we have done an examination and you convert in various examination bodies, specifically either in Lagos or elsewhere, to check your result. So that was quite easy and that was quite straightforward. Acceptability there from the examining body was a major breakthrough in doing that. How and what are these problems again, if I may want to recall? Bringing solution even to the private and public sector. The illiteracy and change management is also a major issue and the skills required. Another major issue has to do with infrastructure that we have in these various stakeholders' environment. If you go to the private school, if you go to the public school, you could see that there is a problem with infrastructure. So that poses a problem when you are deploying technology across these various sectors. Then the other things I would mention is during the pandemic and post-pandemic, situation becomes easier a little because acceptability came to be on the increase. There was no other option. You cannot go to school, you cannot go anywhere. So what do? Must you be left out? Of course, the answer is a no. So it became a little bit easier when the pandemic came and during the pandemic period. The other issue we also need to look at is the deployment of some of the solutions we have done for school. For instance, there is what we call the school management system that can go directly to the school, that can be deployed directly to the school. That is both the public school, either a secondary school or a university. It becomes a little bit easier also, but generally you realize that the terrain has a little bit been rough because of paucity of funds. Having said this, there are several learning there are several things we have learned from it. There is a change management that is coming in place. And that change management is to enable people to see that deploying this education is for our own good. We are already in the global environment. The regulators themselves, they are embracing it. Government is embracing it. The schools, they are also embracing it. The parents are also embracing it. The last thing I will mention has to do with devices, which of course becomes a challenge even when we're deploying this solution to school. How can the students themselves have access to this education? It becomes a little bit of an issue, but today gradually these issues are being overcome. So these are some of the issues we have seen deploying solutions in the education sector and across the various stakeholders. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Aigbe. Yeah, that's very true because everybody knows that. And I want to say, in fact, I don't want in fact, I need to say that COVID was a blessing because before now, people thought you can only just walk into a school or a place of education to be able to get education. But with the introduction of, of ICT, during COVID, it came to realization, apart from moving everybody from, as in 90% of the world, from being a digital migrant to become a digital citizen, it shows that those two education houses were closed, but education itself was not closed. Accessibility to education was not closed, except at maybe, for the indigent people. So everybody was forced to go online. But those who were living, under the poverty line were not able to do that. And that is one challenge we're still having today. And we want to profile solutions to that challenge because everybody, according to the SDG 4, every child deserves to have quality education. So right now we've talked about the challenges that we're facing. And from what Mr. Aigbe has said, I think I would like to say that the reception of these ICT tools is 50-50. Am I right to say that, sir?
You are correct, Eki.
All right, thank you so much. So let us move on and talk about the solutions. I would like to call on Honorable Commissioner Magawata Aliero to tell us about the initiative that Kebbi State Government has introduced to help improve the education sector in the states. We know that funding is a big problem in the education sector around the country. But what are the initiatives that you have put in place? In case we have partners tomorrow, they can jump in there for us.
Thank you very much.
Over to you, sir.
I've already started, but I made an... Hello? I said thank you very much. I've already started. Hello? I said thank you very much.
I can hear you.
I said I've already started. To the defense of the constant do you hear me at all, ba? Okay, do you hear me? You don't?
The sound is bad, it's cracking. Please,
no connection.
We really, I don't know why the sound.
Hello? I hope you hear me now. Hello?
Yes, I can hear you better now, sir. I can hear you better now, sir.
I said I have started my own personal trial last year when I wrote to the leader of the House, of the Senate, who happens to be from Kebbi State, Dr. Yaya Abubakar. I said I crave the indulgence of all the honorable members from Kebbi State to dedicate 50% of their constituency allowance to assist our schools, because I told you up to today, only 17 secondary schools in Kebbi State are connected to internet. And only two schools run email e-library. And I said that our government should try to declare the state of emergency on education, especially on information and communication technology, so that it can catch up with other in the country. Actually, the poverty of funds is making a lot of damages to the industry of education. What I told you is the most costly, the most expensive worldwide is education. If a child cannot be dedicated like $5,000, there will be no way that he can learn very well, he can assimilate well, he feels well, and have a child-friendly environment that will assist him in boosting the knowledge, and then and then he will be equal to other counterparts throughout the world or even in the country. And also people, parents, everybody must assist to ensure that he has education. To me, I think free education in Nigeria is not possible. Not true. We have to control. Everybody must control. Madam, you know that still in Nigeria, we have over 11 million people in school going age of 16 years who are not in school. And you're aware that in the year 2000, the Dakar Declaration, the Dakar Conference says that by 2015, every child within the school age going cohort of 16 years must be in school. But still, we are not, we're like, essentially here in Kebbi State, still we have over 400,000 students who are out of school, who are supposed to be in school, they're out of school. So there are a lot of challenges that we have to all come to assist, put our hands on deck to assist education generally, so that we can have funds to sponsor education, we have good information technology, so we can develop.
Thank you.
Like this.
All right, thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Although we struggled to hear properly online, but I was able to grab some things that you said, that 20% of the constituency allowance should be directed to education, though that fund should be put to education in Kebbi State. And I also want to believe, I heard that education is, to have an effective education actually comes in a triangle. The government, the management, and the parents should be involved to get an effective education. All right. Thank you so much, sir. So let us move on to the next person on the panel. That is the person of Honorable Commissioner Abdullahi Magoro. Can you kindly tell us the initiatives you have put in place, or your ministry has put in place, to grow and support the education sector in Kebbi State?
Can you hear me?
Sound is bad. I can hear you now, sir.
Okay. All right, thank you. Now, I'll talk basically based on our experience last year during the pandemic, when it came. By the second quarter, as everyone knows, the lockdowns were initiated all over the country, all over the world, and this created a crisis, an education crisis, which His Excellency Senator Dr. Atiku then challenged myself and the Honorable Commissioner of Education to find ways we can continue or we can get students, especially those in primary and secondary school, to continue learning even though they are at home and not allowed to go to school due to the lockdown. So teams which we set up in the Ministry of ICT and Education were able to come up with multiple platforms, online platforms for e-learning, and at the same time, radio and television programs. This was a challenge to us because we had not really done this before, and we found ourselves in a situation where we had to put all this short period of time, probably about 2 weeks, coming up with TV programs for students basically learn video programs, and of course the platform online which they could go to actually get all this information. And based on this experience and targeting over 100,000 students, we had our own unique experiences, I would say, in the States, which also was an eye-opener for us to identify the challenges. And of course, we had the director of earlier mentioned, these challenges are similar, especially with infrastructure and internet connectivity. And of course, for these students to have access to devices. Now, that is why in this case, the Ministry of ICT made it a priority to partner or to work with partners, especially development partners, which will have access to federal intervention programs, especially from the Ministry of Communication and Economy.
Thanks to NIDA and also the NCC and SPF. And we've also partnered, as you can see, where we are now in this particular hub is with the Bank of Industry, and which we are grateful for. They came through during the pandemic, actually, when everywhere had actually been shut down, and delivered on schedule the hub which we are sitting in today and hosting this particular program. Now, apart from that, we also have 2 other hubs that are coming online in Jega local government and Fakai local government, which His Excellency has signed off to, and we're partnering with NITDA and USPF for those ones. Now, also to improve the internet connectivity in the states, His Excellency signed off on the 145 naira for right-of-way charges for telcos to lay their fiber optic cables in the states, which will pass through certain urban areas. And also, we've also we have had various tower companies and telcos that have indicated interest in setting up rural telephony masts, and that's in rural areas where presently there's no GSM coverage. So all this basically is geared towards achieving the 2025 broadband plan for the country, where, as I had mentioned earlier, 90% of the people should have access to internet connectivity by 2025 at affordable rates, nothing more than 300 naira per gigabyte. And with this, of course, we are on course to achieve it. But of course, still the challenges are there, and the key and the way forward, which he has said, Honorable Commissioner mentioned, or Education mentioned earlier on, is the paucity of funds. We are open to partnerships with also companies like Vertebra, as you can see, which they're playing a key role in the running of the hub in Kebbi State. They have actually brought in their expertise, which we have tapped into, and we with our own experience here, we have been able to merge the two and see how it can best be tailored to meet the market, well, not the market in this sense, but the populace of Kebbi State, to be able to take advantage of the opportunities in the ICT sector. Now, moving forward for the education sector or the Ministry of Education, we also have plans to come up with a curriculum that would favor the ICT and the ICT training in the various institutions we have in the state. We are also looking at due to paucity of funds, to come up with more hubs again across the state, which would make it easier for the students to be bused to those particular hubs and have ICT classes or training. We know it's challenging to say we're going to provide laptops or tablets in all the schools. That's something which we know that is impossible for now. So the easiest way is to make sure that we have these centers across the state where these students can go in on various days from various schools to go for their ICT training. That is the best I think we can do for now until the internet connectivity improves across the state, affordability or access to data also is reduced in the country. For now, these are the plans and these are the different programs or the projects which we have embarked on. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, sir. That was another explicit explanation. And from what I see, your plans are actually very sustainable. Yeah, we're moving from the non-digital age to the digital age, and you want to create centers, before you are able to give every child a laptop. And you also have plans in place, from what you said, that is also gearing towards a low-cost accessibility for data as well. And also, more youth or more children accessing training at little or no cost. We appreciate that. We appreciate all your efforts in this program. And thank you so much to the Commissioner of Education as well, because you mentioned him. So back to Mr. Abubakar Issa, Director of ICT, Federal Ministry of Education. You were going to talk about some of the solutions or initiatives you have in place before. I just put a stop for it. I didn't cut you off. So it is time for you to come up now and tell us the plans you have at the federal level using ICT or leveraging on ICT to support education.
Thank you so much, moderator. Like I was saying earlier on, the ministry have developed. I don't know if I can share my screen. Maybe when I can, I would let you know. We have developed a website we call Inspire. That website have 15,000 videos and audio lessons from primary school, P1 to senior secondary school. And what it does is that it's available online and it's free. You can download it, states can download it, they can play it on radio, they can play it on air, just to fill the gap. Our assumption is that should there be any school disruption, this is a tool that has been created by federal government and is available. And we're also training, because education is local, we're training each state to be able to produce their own materials. We have audio lessons that can also be downloaded and played on radio station in every state. And like I said earlier on, just two, but we also know, example, like if you are teaching agriculture, you need to teach local things so that students can follow. So for that reason, in collaboration with UNICEF, we're training each state and for them to have the ability to produce their own content. We also have a similar website called Ignite for teachers. If you are a teacher, maybe youth corps you have never taught before, and you are sent to school to teach, you can go to that website to teach you step by step what is expected of you. If you are supposed to teach Cell, it tells you what is expected of you, how to test your students, and even an example of somebody that have taught Cell. That way we're able to just do a crash program for corpers to become teachers. And we're also hoping that our teachers will have access to it. It's available online to improve themselves. The whole idea is that we know that we have to leverage our technology to expand our access. And the next project we're taking up next year is how do we translate this subject into our local languages. There is a policy of local languages from P1 to P3. This should take advantage of that. It's easier. Maybe during our time, we had no choice. You have to learn English. Now we have this concept that allow you that transition program from P1 to P3. You can teach in your local language. I think, and we can leverage on this technology because this is available. This website I'm talking about can accommodate 2 million concurrent users at a time. And it's only going to get better. We're going to keep adding content. We're also hoping that once they produce their content, they will share with us. But like I said earlier on, one of the major challenges we know, is access and affordability. We're coming up with a model of offline. For instance, Kebbi State can think of, we can give a copy of the system to Kebbi State, and Kebbi State can domesticate it offline in a school and just do a small Wi-Fi. That means you're not looking for internet to update. Once in a while, maybe once in 3 months, you can go online to update. But locally, within the school, people will have access to these materials and it can help. And then affordability, the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Comtech, Ministry of Industry is thinking of how do we get devices cheap? What kind of policy do we need to come up with so that we can encourage private sector individuals to go into producing devices? And once they do that, maybe federal government can take out giving them a tax holiday so that these devices can be cheap and affordable. But these are all in the works. But vis-a-vis, I think we are in the right direction. And we need to work together as partners so that we can understand specifics of states and how do we need to collaborate with them to help them in terms of making this education available to everybody. And one of the major things we're having a lot of statistics going around about digital literacy. I mean, if you have somebody in the market that has a smartphone, can do WhatsApp, can snap pictures, can share it online. As far as he's digitally literate. Now, how do we ensure that instead of spending more time just pushing what is of no value to him, how can he educate himself using those tools? I think those are the next phase we are thinking of how by next year we campaign to ensure that people should know that the little phone they have in their hand is more powerful and they can use it and it can be more useful to them than what they are using for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I know they're doing a lot at the federal level, especially, the offline initiative to make these things accessible, and also the tax holiday you intend to give to producers to also make the tools available to children, parents, and the schools themselves. But I would like to say at this point that, strategy should be put in place for it to trickle down to the states. So, everything is all concentrated in the Federal Capital Territory. The government is doing a lot. We appreciate, and I would also like to tell parents and children who are listening to also put in their own efforts. It's called an effective triangle in education. The government, the management, the pupils that are involved, the students that are involved, and the parents can make it effective. So we know we have challenges. They've talked about a lot, and we've heard about the different initiatives that these ministries have put in place, even at the federal government level. So I would like to pause right now and introduce this program again. In case you are just joining, this is knowledge sharing of leveraging on ICT to actually grow the economy. But today we are focusing on education because the educators need to actually teach the use of the ICT tools for it to be effectively used and for it to affect our economy. So right now, I would also want to move on and call on Mr. Mike Aigbe, the Deputy Managing Director of Vertebra, to tell us about, the challenges facing the education sector as an education consultant from the perspective, and also tell us how technology can be used to solve some of these challenges and improve the education sector in Nigeria. Although he has talked about it before, especially on the aspect of, going to check exam scores online and, take exams online. But we just want to hear more from him because he's the expert here. So,
okay,
sir, please.
Thank you so much again, Eki.
You're welcome.
Several things that can be done. I have heard a whole lot of things this morning in terms of scarcity or paucity of funds. And that is why a public-private partnership needs to come into play here. what we do, or one of the things we'll be offering or suggesting, is that the government itself do not have all the monies to do all these things. They can actually do a partnership with consultants, with people who can bankroll it and let them recover their costs over a time model or over a period of time. This we have tried in several sectors, especially education, and it works. I look at it as complete intervention. I've had the issue of access to education. There is no way the government will be able to do it all alone. For instance, the National Policy on Education did mention that the teacher-student ratio should be about 1:40. That is the policy. But in Kwara, we have seen teacher-student ratio 1:21. In Anambra, we have seen that. In Yobe, we have seen 1:73 teacher-student ratio, which is very high. In the United Kingdom, we have seen between 1 and 16, one teacher to 16 students. When we extrapolate this, what we simply need to do is to make devices available, let people be able to learn at their own pace. And the problems in education in Nigeria is much. Government intervention or private sector intervention cannot be ruled out. Vertebra is poised to provide value-adding services to simplify some of these processes. It will be very difficult for you to crowd students in a hall, 73 students at the same time. In some cases, where we have done some research, we have seen about 100 people. One teacher is talking to all of them at the same time. I begin to ask myself, how do you learn in this instance? With increased funding, which of course, like I did mention, if you look at some parameters, for instance, in 2021, the federal government budget was about 14.57 trillion naira, and 5.68% was for education. That is mega. If you talk about the developed nation, it is much more higher than this. In the 2022 proposed budget, it is about 16.3 trillion naira. And what is the percentage of education? It's about 7.2%. This has been the highest so far. It is just a budget in the instance of it. But the point here really is that if we must create this accessibility, the private sector, especially technology consultants, must be brought in. Let them deploy this solution to the states and let them have a long-term gestation period. Education is a social service. It is not a money-making venture. So the technology company that is poised, that have this understanding at the back of their mind, they will be able to provide that solution. Let me take it further again. You realize that today, everybody congregate to write an examination. Some processes can be simplified using a CBT arrangement. That is a computer-based training arrangement. These kids, like we have all seen, or these children, like we have all seen, some of them have smartphones. They are very apt and they are very versatile on the social media platform. Such energies can even be channeled again to equip them with some of these resources that they can use. If you look at it and take it further, you realize that even when you move from the basic education to secondary education to tertiary education, we are talking about malpractices that also come in. It's also an area that technology can be used to curb such issues using biometric systems. We need to identify who are these people that are genuinely in school. There was a statistic that was mentioned, about 53 million children are out of school, or I couldn't get that statistic very well. If we deep down, you realize that when they come back to school, there are issues that you need to contend with, issue of integrity. We must also ensure the issue of integrity in our examination. What are we looking at? We are talking about problems, money issue, paucity of fund, accessibility. What I think simply is open the system up, let's be more receptive. Let's leave a little bit of bureaucracy, which have bedeviled education sector in Nigeria. Let's free up the system. Let the people who have the understanding, let them come in and provide solutions. Let there be a sustainable model for them. It can be a 10-year model. It can be a 20-year model, but something must be constant. There should not be political interference. When one state government or a government is out, another government is out, then every other problem, you need to reset. You don't need to reset the system. Education is the easiest way out of poverty. If we don't address it holistically and in this manner, we will come back on this webinar another time. I will be saying the whole thing. I salute the courage of the permanent secretary in Abuja. And I also enjoyed the conversation Eki had mentioned. That is at the national level, but it must trickle down. How many teachers do we have? We have about 530-something thousand secondary school teachers. And how many students do we have in school? About 27.9, close to 30 million in school. Let's understand this. And we are talking about 15,000. This is just so insignificant if you look at it. And that is the reason why we must open up this system. Allow technology consultants, let them deploy their services. Let them come up with a recovery model. For instance, in Kebbi State, I know people move from junior secondary school to secondary school. How do they register for this examination? How do they sit for this examination? Can there be an arrangement where a technology company come in, deploy the solution, let it be on a PPP model or a recovery-based model? There are a whole lot of things I can mention in terms of this intervention, in terms of how we can improve the education sector in Nigeria. I will hold on for now. Thank you so much, Eki.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir. Like I said, we had to give it to the ICT consultant to tell us a few things. And before we move on to the future plans for education, I just want to do a recap of what he has said. He talked about the CBT system in schools. Most private schools are already doing that. And now we talk about lack of funding in the education sector. When we have the PPP, the public-private partnership, which they even do for hospitals here in Abuja. I don't know if they do it in the state level, but with that, funding and taking on up some of the initiative that Mr. Mike Aigbe has just said would be easy for us. He said education is a social service, and the government has actually made education tax-free. Education is supposed to be tax-free. So now the bureaucracies relating to politics and all that should be taken off. That will help us. I'm just doing a recap because we have the government's people here. They can also go back, sit on the round table and talk about these things, because we learn. I've come here to learn. Everyone has come here to learn, put heads together to provide solutions to the problems that we have. He has also mentioned that we should include ICT curriculums in school to actually aid learning. There are curriculums already. The ACE curriculum is there. It might not cut across all religion, but I believe that there are other curriculums waiting for us. We can leverage on Odyssey Way. Mr. Consultant, you will know about Odyssey Way. We can leverage on such systems and put them in the hub that the Honorable Commissioner for ICT in Kebbi State talked about, so that these children can learn, by themselves, learn according to their pace, not just learning different skills, learning academically. That will improve them as well. Then the ratio of teacher to children in the public schools is alarming, it's ridiculous. I think that's a word I need to use. Sorry, I had to say that. It's there. And it still boils down to the fact that there is not enough funds to pay these teachers. Please, we need to keep advocating. We need to keep advocating. So thank you so much for all of you who have stayed on till now. We appreciate the fact that you came and you gave us your time, and especially the panelists. Let's move on to the last part of this knowledge sharing session. Briefly, Mr. Rudra actually just told us everything he needed to tell us, the challenges, the overview for UNICEF, and he also told us the future plans, their initiatives and all that. So I would like to move on to Mr. Abubakar K. Issa again. He told us some things before, and I just want him to now narrow it to how education will help us reduce poverty in Nigeria.
Thank you once again. Education is by no means the opener of door to everything. You don't have a choice but to be educated. Whatever that education is, could be trade, it could be whatever. In this part of the world, we worry about numeracy and literacy. It does not necessarily have to be in English, but you just need to be educated because that helps you whatever you do. And we sincerely believe that once you are educated, most of the challenges we're having today is lack of education, be it Western education, as we call it, or religious education, that have led to banditry, drug abuse, etc., etc. But how do we ensure that our kids have access to this education? We may need to, in 21st century, redefine what is it to be educated, what is it to be educated. We have these tools that can help, unlike before. Maybe when we were growing up, the only way you can get educated is by reading. Now video has come into it and is available. Now, states have responsibility as much as possible to get their kids or their citizens as educated. One federal government will come up with policy, and it's a burden, and sometimes it's a shame when we hear the number of people that are supposed to be out of school children. I think we need to do a lot more. Federal government, in its wisdom and in its within the limited resources, is trying to provide platform that is all inclusive, and that's why we are leveraging on technology. If we have all these websites available with all the information, it's just like a big library. Before you could physically walk into a library, but now the library is right in your hand and in your house and at home at any time. Unlike before that, you have to make a specific time to walk into a library, register and pick a book and read. Now you can do that about any time. So, but I think we have to make the effort nationally and statewide to encourage our parents, our children to all go to school, get educated, get to learn something. Even if you don't think you need that, but just get educated, be able to take an informed decision, be able to communicate and contribute to your environment. So without much ado, we think we need to do a lot more to get as much as our citizens educated. And the tools are there. We need to partner together with the states and with our development partners to make this education available and accessible to our citizens as much as possible. And hopefully we'll have a better economy. Hopefully we'll have a better citizen participation, and hopefully we should have a better society. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. I like what you said. It's not all about numeracy and literacy. You know, the extracurricular aspects, aside ICT, should be included. Behavioral aspects should be included in education to avoid banditries and all that. SDG 16 is talking about peace as well, justice, peace, and security. And that is also very key. In including ICT, we should also include SDG 16, the peace curriculum, peace education curriculum. That will help also in the area of banditry, because some children have been in the streets, they don't know what is love, they don't know what feeling is, they've just known crime. So these are the things that should be included. And with the help of ICT, leveraging on ICT tools, I think that can easily be included as well. Thank you so much, sir. We appreciate you. And I would like to move on right now to Honorable Commissioner Aliero to tell us, his view about how, we can reduce poverty in Kebbi State, leveraging on education as well. Are you there, sir? Honorable Commissioner Aliero, are you still with us, please? If you can hear me on your end, kindly type yes.
Thank you. What else is Ma?
Okay. The question is that you should please tell us the plans that the Kebbi State Government have in place to improve the education sector and also reduce poverty, leveraging on ICT.
Yes, thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
I always insist that because today, without the technologies, there will be no progress. The Kebbi State is, we have every plans underway to ensure that we, yes, to ensure that we use the ICT to serve our, because nobody can doubt that the ICT is helping the education progress today. Teaching cannot go well, learning cannot go. So both teaching and learning process cannot go without the ICT. Therefore, we have
We can't hear anything anymore. Please check sound. Check sound, please. We're almost done. Sound check, please. If you can hear me, sound check, please. All right, so I can hear you now.
Do you hear me?
I can hear you now, sir.
You hear me? You hear me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you now. I can hear you now, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. I said here in Kebbi, we take the ICT program seriously because as you rightly heard from the Honorable Commissioner Abdullah Makuru during the pandemic time, the ICT has assisted tremendously our students at home. Funds are the cog in wheel. The funds are the cog in wheel. There is no money, no money to do this. I always insist. So, madam, we have to think out of the box to see how we can bankroll money funds to sponsor ICT, because ICT is now in the world is compulsory. It's everywhere in the human endeavor. It's influencing all human activities. Without ICT, no progress, no growth, no economic growth, no economic development. You know, economic growth is the availability of good hospital beds, good agriculture, as pointed out by Robert Klober in Liberia when he made his research, and then later the growth, when we can join the whole of the world in inventing armaments, in doing inventing other things that will go along with. Hello, ma.
I can hear you, sir. I'm listening. I'm right here.
Yes. So to cut everything short, with that Kebbi State, we are doing all we can do to ensure that we catch up with the whole world in technologies. Unless the host of the funds. Thank you, ma'am.
All right, thank you so much. So the issue of fund is the biggest constraint that you have in the Ministry of Education in Kebbi State. And like Mr. Mike Aigbe said, you can leverage on public-private partnership. So now the states can do that and also partner with ICT hubs like you're doing with Vertebra right now. So you can actually just hold them very tight, and they might also open doors for you for public-private partnership and investors to come in and partner with the Kebbi State, the Kebbi State Government. So thank you so much. I would like to go back. We're rounding up soon. We just have a few minutes to go. I would like to go back to Honorable Commissioner Magoro to tell us the plans he has as the ICT minister, or the ministry has as the ICT minister, to improve education in Kebbi State, leveraging on partnership in the ICT sector and any other sector you feel education is suffering.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, yes. Basically, as I said, started talking about it earlier on, we have plans in place already. For example, the Bank of Industry, they've helped us here with the hub, which we're using for this particular program. NITSDA, under the Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy, is also partnering with Kebbi State in helping us with a hub in Kebbi State. Same thing with the USPF. We don't joke with council meetings, especially to do with Ministry of Communication and Digital Economy. This gives us an opportunity, of course, to present memos, which they also assist the state based on what we request for. When it comes to foreign partners or development partners, as you can see, UNICEF was here and they participated with us, and they promised to assist with the training of teachers in Kebbi State, especially regarding ICT. We are looking forward to that. And also, we are looking at the PPP with Vertebra, and I'm happy the DMD was here with us today, and also the Commissioner of Education is here. And hopefully, by the end of this program, the two will be able to meet and discuss to see, or his team and the Vertebra team, to see how we can move the state forward using PPP. Yes, paucity of funds is clearly something that we have been facing, and that doesn't mean that we should not try the little or whatever it is we can do at the moment to reach out to the students in the education sector, which is what we've tried, of course, with the e-learning platform from last year, which we are now going to planning on scaling up to make sure that we can accommodate other areas where the teachers can actually go online and actually have control of the learning themselves. We plan on having this coming next year. Of course, the year has already run out. COVID, as you said, gave the opportunity for us to move faster in the digital age. But also, what many people have overlooked is revenue for the country went down due to, of course, the crash in the price of oil. During the COVID period, that's the first time we saw a negative price of crude oil ever. So this has affected funds allocations to states, and funds that are out there that we can use for spend towards education, even though it's not enough, as the Honorable Commissioner of Education had earlier pointed out, but it has still affected us even more. So PPPs are definitely the way forward. We're grateful for the intervention programs from the federal level, and also for foreign partners that also assist the state. But as also the Commissioner of Education mentioned earlier, everyone has to come on board, all hands on deck, to see how we can all contribute in our own little way, to see how we can fight this problem of out of school children, and also to bring the state up to speed with the digital opportunities that are out there, so that we don't miss out. Lagos State, I mean, is compared to the rest of the states in Nigeria, is you can see from the investment, especially the startups and the financial technology sector, is flying. And we hope, of course, but Lagos State did not get there just by waking up or by luck. The seeds were planted years ago, and this is the plants and the fruits they are harvesting. So we also are looking at ways that these seeds can be planted now. So in the next couple of years, we can start harvesting fruit seeds.
Hello, everyone.
So yes, when we look back, it was worth it. These particular programs or the summit that we're having now contributed towards the success in this sector for the states. So these are the areas for now, apart from, of course, expanding on the hubs which we expect or we plan on having across the states as a temporary intervention for us here. It would reach quite a number of students, but not everyone. But it's better than not having anything at all. So these are the plans for now, and we're open and we look forward to partnership with different companies from the private sector. Thank you.
And who gets to affect a lot of them in millions. So I would quickly like to move on to the last question for this knowledge sharing session. I will be directing it at Mr. Mike Aigbe. I would like to ask that. We have heard all the problems, the plans from the government. How can the private sector help in achieving all of these plans, especially technology companies like yours and your other partners as well?
Okay, thank you so much, Eki. Just in a jiffy, I will summarize.
Thank you.
The first thing we need to look at is how do we drive down the cost of technology as part of our contribution, as part of the future plan. Technology, like you say, is always on the increase. I love the word the Honorable Commissioner said. He's saying catch up. And that is the issue that we are having here, really catch up. So the first thing we need to do is to how quickly can we drive down the cost of technology so that everybody should be able to buy into it. Then the other future plan we need to look at is how do we develop a scalable solution that will help in learning? Scalable solution, not too difficult, not too complex, quite simple, that will be interactive and interesting. That is also another future plan we need to look at. Today, we talked about, we dwell so much on the PPP model. The government response through PPP model is also part of the things that technology should explore. I want to mention one of the initiatives I think technology companies can come up with. We call it Adopt a School model. The Adopt a School model will be an instance where a technology company will identify a school, one or two, bring them on board and try to computerize that school, provide the required facility that is necessary for that school, both the teachers and both the students. It can be a part of CSR. That is why I call it Adopt a School model. Technology companies, they should also go into how do we promote education. For instance, Vertebra has partnered with WIFE. We have instituted several kinds of awards: best public schools in the sciences, best students in some science subjects. This had been running for more than 3 years. It is a way that we encourage people to come into education. It's a way that we let people know that in the same way that there is vibe or there are vibes in the entertainment industry, there are also vibes in the education sector. And I think a whole lot of technology companies, they should embark on that. We have also spoken the issue of deploying solution affordable and recover it over a period of time. Future plans, we need to also include continuously expand our curriculum. Let's bring in deep learning into our curriculum. Let's bring in the issue of robotics into our curriculum because things are changing on a daily basis. When you look at the SDG goal, you realize that Africa is a little bit backward. It's not just Kebbi, Africa, Nigeria as a whole. So what do? We kept on playing catch up. And that is the reason why we need to continuously expand our curriculum, bring in people. Robotics is an area, artificial intelligence is an area. Even if you look at customer service that you provide for today, what is happening? Human beings are actually not the attendant. We are having systems who are attendant. So it tells you a whole lot of things that technology companies, they should be on their toes every now and then. And when they have this, the other part of it, who is the receiver, who are the receiver, they should also embrace it. The last thing I will mention is that the issue of devices, I know the minister has mentioned it, or the permanent secretary sitting in Abuja has also mentioned it, make this available, partner with as much as possible with people that you believe that they have value to bring on board. The final thing I will mention, Eki, is that can we have more of this forum really and invite many technology companies so that we can hear from a whole lot of people because ideas are in this country. People who can do it are in this country. Let's leverage on that. Let's leverage on local content management. Let's leverage on local content delivery. I believe that technology companies, they are poised and they are very much ready to provide the enabling thing that we require to further education in our nation, specifically in Kebbi. We are committed to it. And after this meeting, like the Honorable Commissioner of ICT did mention, we can have a quick discussion and see how we can look at low-hanging fruit to progress Kebbi. Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you so much. This brings us to the end of this knowledge sharing session of the program. And after all said and done, as the moderator, I've heard a whole lot. And I know those sitting right there and those online with us have actually learned a whole lot of all these things. You said something now that we should embrace local content. Yes, the ICT director in Federal Ministry of Education said something about being tax-free. Yes, bring in these tools, bring in laptops, bring in, all these equipments, make them tax-free so that they are affordable at the time they arrive here. You talked about artificial intelligence. They're using these things in developed countries. Expansion, teach children in a way they can become critical thinkers. Let us leverage on partnership. Everywhere in the world, it has actually helped in funding. They say 2 heads are better than 1. We can begin to leverage on that as well to make ICT, and also partner with ICT as well, the ICT companies as well, so that education can be in the forefront, because that's going to develop our economy as well. There's a whole lot I have learned here today. Adopt a school. That is another way to actually make funding not a problem. If we partner with these ICT companies to adopt a school, equip them for us at little or no cost, then we are also on the right track. And I would like to end here by saying that we need more of this forum, like Mr. Aigbe has said. Let us keep sensitizing people. Let us keep sensitizing the ministries. Let us keep sensitizing parents. Let us ask for partnership. Let us have an advocacy on all the solutions that we have proffered here today. That could be taking this maiden edition a step further. Advocacy. It will get to the right ear. Like the saying goes that if you preach a good news long enough, it will definitely fall in the right ears. On this note, I want to say thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to moderate this session. And I also say thank you to all the panelists. I want to say a special thank you to Vertebra, the Honorable Commissioner for ICT on Education in Kebbi State, Honorable Commissioner for Education. I want to say thank you to the Director of ICT Federal Ministry of Health, Federal Ministry of Education. And I want to say thank you once again to everybody in Vertebra and Bank of Industry and UNICEF as well. Thank you so much. Let's do this again. Education is the bedrock of every society. Goodbye. I'll hand over to the host now.
Hello. Okay, we're taking closing prayer.